so tough. She says we gotta hold on to what we've got. It doesn't make a difference if we make it or not. We've got each other, and that's a lot for love. We'll give it a shot. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hand, we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer. Living on a prayer. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hand, we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer. Living on a prayer. Paint your smile on your lips, blood red nails on your fingertips. Chains of love got a hold on me. When passion's a prison, you can't break free. Oh, there's nowhere to run. No one can save me. The damage is done. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name, bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love a bad name, bad name. You give love a bad name. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name, bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love a bad name, bad name. You give love, oh, oh. You give love, oh, oh. You give love, oh, oh. You give love a bad name.
Revolution? It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know they're talking about a revolution? It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Poor people are going to rise up and get their share. Poor people are going to rise up and take what's theirs. Finally, the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution.
In Europe and America, there's a growing feeling of hysteria, conditioned to respond to all of the threats and rhetorical speeches of the Soviets. Mr. Khrushchev says, "We will bury you." I don't subscribe to this point of view. It'd be such an ignorant thing to do if the Russians loved their children too. How can I save my little boy from Oppenheimer's deadly toy? There is no monopoly of common sense on either side of the political fence. We share the same biology, regardless of the ideology. Believe me when I say to you, I hope the Russians love their children too. There's no historical precedent to put the words in the mouth of our president. There's no such thing as a winnable war. It's a lie that we won't believe anymore. Mr. Reagan says, "We will protect you." I don't subscribe to this point of view. Believe me when I say to you, I hope the Russians love their children too. We share the same biology, regardless of the ideology. What might save us, me and you, is if the Russians love their children too.
Let us dance in style. Let's dance for a while. Heaven can wait. We're only watching the skies. Hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Are you gonna drop the bomb or not? Let us die young or let us live forever. We don't have the power, but we never say never. Sitting in a sand pit, life is a short trip. The music's for the sad men. Can you imagine when the race is won? Turn our golden faces into the sun. praising our leaders, we're getting in tune. The music's played by the madmen. Forever young, I want to be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever? Some are like water, some are like the heat. Some are a melody and some are the beat. Sooner or later they will all be gone. Why don't they stay young? It's so hard to get old without a cause. I don't want to perish like a fading horse. Youth's like diamonds in the sun, and diamonds are forever. So many adventures couldn't happen today. So many songs we forgot to play. So many dreams swinging out of the blue. We let them come true. Forever young, I want to be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever?
And if I say I really knew you well, what would your answer be? If you were here today, well, knowing you, you'd probably laugh and say that we were worlds apart. If you were here today. But as for me, I still remember how it was before, and I am holding back the tears no more. I love you. What about the time we met? Well, I suppose you could say that we were playing hard to get. Didn't understand a thing, but we could always sing. What about the night we cried because there wasn't any reason left to keep it all inside? Never understood a word, but you were always there with a smile. And if I say I really loved you and was glad you came along, then you are here today.
Politics. This section presents a speech by the Democratic Governor of New York, an address to Congress by the newly elected President of the Czech Republic, a powerful speech given in Albany, New York, 1988, at an ACT UP rally, which is an organization dedicated to fighting the AIDS epidemic, and a song with significance to the 1980s as a concert piece played in the shadow of the Berlin Wall.
10 days ago, President Reagan admitted that although some people in this country seem to be doing well nowadays, others were unhappy, even worried about themselves, their families, and their futures. The president said that he didn't understand that fear. He said, "Why, this country is a shining city on a hill." And the president is right. In many ways, we are a shining city on a hill. But the hard truth is that not everyone is sharing in this city's splendor and glory. A shining city is perhaps all the president sees from the portico of the White House and the veranda of his ranch, where everyone seems to be doing well. But there's another city. In fact, Mr. President, this is a nation. Mr. President, you ought to know that this nation is more a tale of two cities than it is just a shining city on a hill. President Reagan told us from the very beginning that he believed in a kind of social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Government can't do everything, we were told, so it should settle for taking care of the strong and hope that economic ambition and charity will do the rest. We Democrats believe in something else. We Democrats believe that we can make it all the way with the whole family intact, and we have, more than once. The struggle to live with dignity is the real story of the shining city, and it's a story, ladies and gentlemen, that I didn't read in a book or learn in a classroom. I saw it and lived it, like many of you. I watched a small man with thick calluses on both his hands work 15 and 16 hours a day, a man who came here uneducated, alone, unable to speak the language. I learned about our kind of democracy from my father, and I learned about our obligation to each other from him and from my mother. They asked only for a chance to work and to make the world better for their children, and they asked to be protected in those moments when they would not be able to protect themselves. This nation and this nation's government did that for them. And that they were able to build a family and live in dignity and see one of their children go from behind their little grocery store in South Jamaica on the other side of the tracks where he was born to occupy the highest seat in the greatest state in the greatest nation in the only world we would know is an ineffably beautiful tribute to the democratic process.
The communist type of totalitarian system has left both our nations, Czechs and Slovaks, as it has all nations of the Soviet Union and the other countries the Soviet Union subjugated in its time. A legacy of countless dead, an infinite spectrum of human suffering, profound economic decline, and above all, enormous human humiliation. It has brought us horrors that fortunately you have never known. We can offer you something of our experience and the knowledge that comes from it. The special experience I am talking about has given me one great certainty. Consciousness preceded being, and not the other way around as the Marxists claim. For this reason, the salvation of this human world lies nowhere else than in the human heart, in the human power to reflect, in human modesty, and in human responsibility. Without a global revolution in the sphere of human consciousness, nothing will emerge for the better in the sphere of our being as humans. And the catastrophe towards which this world is headed, whether it be ecological, social, demographic, or a general breakdown of civilization, will be inevitable. In other words, we still don't know how to put morality ahead of politics, science, and economics. We are still incapable of understanding that the only genuine core of all our actions, if they aren't to be moral, is responsibility. Responsibility to something higher than my family, my country, my firm, my success. Responsibility to the order of being, where all our actions are inevitably recorded, and where, and only where, they will be properly judged.
You know, for the last 3 years since I was diagnosed, my family thinks two things about my situation. One, they think I'm going to die. And two, They think that my government is doing absolutely everything in their power to stop that, and they're wrong on both counts. So, if I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from homophobia. If I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from racism. If I'm dying from anything, it's from indifference and red tape, because these are the things that are preventing an end to this crisis. You know, living with AIDS in this country is like living in the Twilight Zone. Living with AIDS is like living through a war which is happening only for those people who happen to be in the trenches. Every time a shell explodes, you look around and you discover that you've lost more of your friends, but nobody else notices. It isn't happening to them. They're walking the streets as though we weren't living through some sort of nightmare, and you can only hear the screams of the people who are dying and their cries for help. No one else seems to be noticing. And it's worse than a war, because during a war, people are united in a shared experience. This war has not united us, it's divided us. It's separated those of us with AIDS and those of us who fight for people with AIDS from the rest of the population. If it is true that gay men and IV drug users are the population at risk for this disease, then we have a right to demand that education and prevention be targeted specifically to these people, and it is not happening. We are being allowed to die while low-risk populations are being panicked, not educated, panicked into believing that we deserve to die. AIDS is really a test of us as a people. When future generations ask what we did in this crisis, we're going to have to tell them that we were out here today, and we have to leave a legacy to those generations of people who will come after us. Someday, the AIDS crisis will be over. Remember that. And when that day comes, when that day has come and gone, there'll be people alive on this earth, gay people, straight people, men and women, black and white, who will hear the story that once there was a terrible disease in this country and all over the world, and that a brave group of people stood up and fought, and in some cases gave their lives so that people might live and be free.
Pop culture. The 1980s saw the rise of paid television, also known as cable, and with it a slew of new viewing options, the most significant being a new 24-hour-a-day news channel called Cable News Network. CNN began its broadcasting in 1980. Also broadcasting out of New York City was a channel called Music Television, which ended up shaping the popular culture in so many ways. 80s music, love it or hate it, featured men with big hair, lots of makeup, and bigger heels, synthesizers, rap and hip-hop, among other genres. And MTV brought them all to us in a visual medium. People still went to the movies in the 1980s, though the technology was changing for that as well. 3 simple letters known as VCR. And the films and soundtracks featured tonight are a small sample that reflect the culture of the times.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. This is it. Welcome to MTV Music Television, the world's first 24-hour stereo music channel. A new concept is born, the best of TV combined with the best of radio. Starting now, you'll never look at music the same way again. All day, all night, in stereo. We'll be doing for TV what FM did for radio. Billy Idol, musician, once said, "Radio guys would take one look at my picture with the spiky hair and say, 'Punk rocker, not playing him.' Then MTV airs my videos, and kids start calling up the radio station saying, 'I want to hear Billy Idol.' It really broke the thing wide open. We'd never touched the charts, and the next minute we had a top 10 album. It was amazing. Nobody had ever heard or noticed me before. Now I'm walking down the street and people are yelling, 'Billy.'" Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats also said, "We put out Stray Cat Strut, and the radio didn't play it, and it flopped. We put it out again, but with a video. Our girlfriends were in it because we didn't want fashion models. We wanted cool people, rockabilly chicks. MTV played the hell out of it, and it clicked. We were playing Tulsa, a place called Old Lady of Brady, and cowboys with skinny ties and stuff were coming to see us. Guys with black leather jackets and pompadours and motorcycle boots. It brought us to the masses, MTV."